Welcome to the Cook the Books podcast by Tea with Coffee Media. I'm Tyler Witkowski, the president and publisher of Tea with Coffee Media.
And I'm Kelsey Ann Lovelady, the vice president of marketing.
Back in 2021, we took our experience as independent authors and used it to create a publishing company with our friends. Our mission is to help other indie authors reach more and greater success.
This podcast is dedicated to helping authors find the perfect recipe to create their books and their persona as an author. We talk about everything from plotting to character creation to marketing to using your life experiences to create your unique voice and stories.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the Cook the Books podcast, where you get to spend 30 to 45 minutes with me, Tyler Witkowski, my best friend,
Kelsey Ann Lovelady, vice president of marketing.
and our very special guest today, Jay Rice. Jay, how are you doing?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here for the show. I'm great.
Absolutely good. Glad to hear it. Kels, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing okay. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be getting on a plane to go visit my mom for the holidays. So, that's going to be a good time. How about you, Jay? What are you up to for the holidays?
I'm going to be spending some time with my mom and my brother and his family. We're actually going to go see the Color Purple movie on Christmas.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the 2-week break off of school. Yeah. Long overdue. What about you, Tyler?
So for Christmas, my mother-in-law is getting married, so I will be all day at a wedding. So that should be on Christmas. It's her and her new husband's favorite holiday, so they decided to get married on Christmas. So we'll be spending Christmas at a wedding, so should be interesting. And it's at the beach, so I may, spend some time at the water. I love the beach at night. It's just so peaceful.
Yeah. Sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's jump into our hot topic. Kels, I'm going to hand the mic off to you and let you kind of lead this discussion because you brought this to me and it's just a mess, isn't it?
Oh boy, if you heard about the Kate Coran situation and you thought that was bad, this is getting just as messy. So, a white author, whose name I will not mention because I refuse to give her the airtime, saw a tweet from another author who happens to be African from Nigeria. Her name is Marv Michael Anson. And this white author noticed this tweet from Marv, and it was talking about how there's a character in Marv's book who is of African descent, named Nova, uses magic that comes from the sun. And that was when this white author decided to accuse Marv of copyright infringement because she also has an African-American character named Nova who can use sun powers. And the fact that Marv was from Nigeria seemed to cement this white author's assumptions that her idea had been stolen because Nigeria has a lot of organized crime. We've heard the joke about the Nigerian prince emails. So because of the high crime rate and organized crime in Nigeria, the white author came to the conclusion that that was even more evidence that Marv had stolen her character, because apparently everybody in Nigeria is a criminal. As you can imagine, the internet did not respond well to any of this, and it was made abundantly. She even mentioned that she spoke with her lawyer about this copyright infringement, and her lawyer said, we need to wait until Marv's book comes out and we need to read it before we can see if we have a copyright infringement case. In short, her own lawyer said, right now, you don't have a case. You just threw an accusation out there because. And she kept doubling down for 5 days. And as of maybe 6 hours ago, she deactivated her Twitter account for the second time, or Twitter said, enough people have reported you, you're a problem. So it has been a mess of the last 5 days. So I want to ask you, Jay, Did
Yes.
you hear about this situation before we told you about it for the show?
No, and I'm very surprised, and thank you for spreading the light on that. Um, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy is
Yeah,
how far people will go. Um, well, what I think about it, I think like it's sort of just a matter of competition, and the other author we shall not name kind
yeah.
of didn't really didn't really cope with the competition and the fact that this other author came up with a story that was similar to hers, and I think she felt a little bit insecure, perhaps because the other author might have appeared a lot more authentic with her work, given her background. Her
Mhm.
being African and then writing about like Black characters, maybe this other author felt threatened by this kind of competition and thought that with her authenticity that people will gravitate towards her. Um, I'm surprised. I would imagine typically authors would just kind of I wouldn't say rejoice in the competition, but just acknowledge like, oh, there's another author kind of having a similar story than mine. Let me make my work stronger. Let me make my promotion better instead of just tearing down the other person. It seems very tactless and as a high school teacher, it's I'm seeing it like it's very immature, like some of my students would do.
Yeah. And
Exactly. Exactly.
the crazy thing to me is that now have you seen Jay her book cover?
Yeah, I saw it. It was
Yeah.
okay.
She's claiming that her main character is African American and she is using a pale, like ghostly looking woman on the cover. And it's like, and go ahead, Kels.
As the person who kept up with this for a good solid 48 hours, I can explain that. Her explanation for that is that that's not that character that's on the front cover, that's not Nova, the main character. That's
Mm,
somebody else that we focus on, and Nova gets introduced at the end.
mm,
But more than just the ethnicity of the character on the front cover, that cover was AI generated.
hmm, yeah,
So, and we've Tyler and we've discussed AI on this a lot before. AI is notorious for stealing art from real authors.
yeah.
And the fact that she's going to accuse another individual of copyright infringement with next to no evidence and use AI generated art is the height of hypocrisy.
Hmm, yeah, yeah. It's a mess. And from what I understand, the other author Marv hasn't acknowledged this person or hasn't really returned that fire. I guess she blocked the person. Um,
It's yeah, she's blocked the person, and like the most that she acknowledges it is like she'll acknowledge if it's like day 5 of Sungate, which is what this is being called on Twitter.
okay, making names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay, you mentioned that clearly this author was threatened by Marv. It seems like a pattern is starting to develop where a lot of white authors seem to be threatened by authors of color. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we just came off of Kate Coran, who
Yeah.
created multiple Goodreads accounts to attack multiple authors, most of whom were BIPOC. Why are they feeling so threatened? What's the deal?
I don't know. I can't speak for white authors or debut white authors. I can speak for many. I can speak as a black author myself. I think it's what I am kind of interpreting things or seeing things is that there's this current belief that like non-white authors are receiving more recognition and more attention, primarily due to their race and ethnicity and cultural background. And it's almost going back to the argument against like affirmative action, where it's just like people are kind of, I guess, like in the case of this author, tearing down another author and saying that this person isn't worthy. And I think Yeah, it's very shame. It's a shame that this belief is going around that that Black people are getting more attention, or BIPOC people are getting more attention and more recognition. If anything, what I see is more of a leveling of the playing field, where back in the past, where many non-white authors weren't getting that same kind of recognition because of discrimination, because of racism. Now I feel like there is sort of a leveling field where everyone is getting attention. But it seems like with these certain cases, with these other two authors that shall go nameless, they're kind of going about their life under this belief that that non-white authors are stealing their shine, or they are taking away what they deserve. And so I think just more education, more enlightenment is needed, more awareness. I think certain authors, like I can't speak for these people because I don't know them like that. It's just based on what I've read and heard. But it just seems like they kind of just need to get outside their bubble a bit and kind of see things from other people's point of view, especially like with Mars' case. Um, I don't know if she actually acted on her suspicions without properly researching this person. So I really believe that certain white authors just kind of just need to get outside of their bubble and just become more self-aware and just become more compassionate of other people and other people. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, there are so many BIPOC authors and authors of color who are coming out of their shell and actually putting their work on paper, and they're such powerful storytellers. They deserve the attention. And I think that's what it comes down to is the quality of your writing and your story is what should be focused on. And I mean, we've got authors like you, Jay, who are powerful storytellers.
Thank you.
And we never once cared about, the color of your skin. It was all about you being able to tell this story that was powerful and needed to be told. And I think that should be the most important thing to any author. And I say this all the time. I'm not in this for competition against other publishers. I support other publishers because I think that the more books in the world, the better, because we've lost the art of reading and writing, and now it's coming back. And I want to help make as many of those dreams as possible. And just for people to be tearing down other authors, for whatever reason, period, is terrible. But for them to do it because of the color of somebody's skin is just, it's barbaric.
Mm.
I agree.
Yeah.
But we're
We
getting
we at Tea
into.
with Coffee.
Go ahead, Kels.
Well, we at Tea with Coffee Media, Caitlin has said it a million times, a rising tide lifts all ships. We firmly believe that when we help everyone in the author community, we all benefit. So
True.
For me, I just don't get anybody who views other authors as competition, especially, and I especially don't understand my my fellow people of the Caucasian persuasion feeling extra threatened by people of different races, ethnicities, cultures, descents. That just makes the world more beautiful and provides more beautiful stories to just make the world more colorful.
Yeah. And I completely agree with everything both of you are saying, and that we do need more stories told in the world. I also do, as a track athlete, I also do believe in healthy competition. I think what this other author could have done instead of attacking and tearing down Marv was just do better with her own work, and make her own work stronger, make her own promotion stronger. So I do believe in healthy competition is like what I would have done. I would have just kind of redirected my attention toward just making my own work better and stronger instead of cheating. Um, yeah.
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 Because it was cheating, basically, what she did.
Yeah.
What were you
All
saying when
right.
I interrupted you, Tyler?
No, you're good, Kels. We are getting into the heart of our main topic today. So let's take a break, go to our commercial, and we will be right back.
Nestled in the foreboding backwoods of Virginia, Madame Eldridge's behavior program promotes only 3 official rules. Firstly, what happens here stays here. Secondly, all 8 steps must be completed, no ifs, ands, or buts. Thirdly, each boy is referred to by his problem, not his name. There is one unspoken rule: don't enter the forbidden 3rd-floor bedroom, which belonged to a boy who disappeared from the house eons ago.
Welcome back to our very special episode of Cook the Book, featuring Jay Rice. And today's
Whoa.
episode is going to talk a lot about how can you best represent BIPOC and people of color, because that's something that I'm working on in my current book, Love and Growth, the Sunflower Kisses book two. I'm introducing a person of color as a main character in the book. Not the main character, but somebody who is very prominent. And I want to be able to do this person justice. So I'm really excited to be having this conversation with Jay Rice. So first off, Jay, you everybody's heard from you already about our hot topic for the day. So why don't you introduce yourself, who you are, and just tell our listeners a little bit about how you're connected to Tea with Coffee, because I don't even think we mentioned that yet.
Oh no! Oh
No,
no!
we haven't.
Hello everyone. I'm Jay Rice. Jay Rice, name so nice you got to say it twice. I am an English teacher here in Oakland, California. I am a broke author, and I am a sex symbol with a bipolar disorder. Yeah. Um, I'm very blessed, very fortunate to have my first official book, Broken Pencils, coming out with Tea with Coffee next year, June 18th, 2024. Yeah, it's a coming of age novella centered in the Bay Area where I'm from, all revolving around Black teenagers on the night during the high school prom. Um, yeah, what I like to say that it's my Black version of Catcher in the Rye, just set in more modern context. Yeah, it's my first try at a serious long length book. It's the first book in the series following Jonah Tarver's character, and I'm very excited for it to be released and for the world to experience it.
And we
So
look
Jay,
forward to
I
sharing it with the world.
bingo. Jay, I don't think you've heard this story, but we at Tea with Coffee Media, our board, Kelsey, Victoria, and Caitlin and I, have this system where we have one golden buzzer a year. And
Mm.
that golden buzzer basically means that during a submission, if we read a manuscript that we want and we golden buzzer it, nobody can say no. Yours was my golden buzzer this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, because I am a strong mental health advocate, and I believe that there is a disconnect in the BIPOC community with mental health.
Yeah.
And I try to make a difference in, people's lives and speak to them, but sometimes it's hard to connect to people who, have vastly different backgrounds. So being able to see somebody like yourself who was able to show it in this book, it was such a powerful book, and I really enjoyed it. So, but let's jump into our topic today. So, we're going to talk about BIPOC characters and how to introduce them and best represent them in our writing. So, Jay, how can writers effectively incorporate BIPOC characters into their narrative and add authenticity to their work?
Yeah, it so the whole authenticity part is a bit tricky. I don't I don't believe that you actually have to be a representation of the ethnic group or sexual group or whatever group to actually write about them. Like I take for example like Norman Lear, who just rest in peace, just passed away. Like Norman Lear, anyone's familiar with his work, he wrote a lot of the classic shows in the 70s and 80s, and like stuff my parents grew up on, and they would just bring on to me like Good Times and the Jeffersons. And you take in the case of, even though this is TV, he's a TV writer. Norman Lear was able to write about Black characters in an authentic way that even my Black family just saw themselves on the screen. And even though some of these characters did represent certain stereotypical traits, a lot of them are based on or representative of just real people. And so I bring up the Norman Lear and the fact that here's a white man writing about Black characters in a way that many Black people relate to. And I think the two key considerations that he did, and what I would suggest on everyone that I use myself, would be experience and knowledge. So writing about a character, whether it's a female or binary, non-binary, or Arab character, I don't know, a baby. What you need is to research what this character feels, what the character might think about, this character's background, and also have some kind of connection to that character's experience. So the experience comes from kind of basing these characters off of people you may know. Like for example, with my with my book, Broken Pencils, the characters in my book are all based on friends I had when I was younger. The family within Broken Pencils, that's based on my family. Certain elements in that story are all based on things that I know and experience myself, or I just research more to make it more authentic. So to wrap this up, uh, what I would suggest on creating authentic BIPOC characters, regardless of if you identify as BIPOC, would be making sure you have some kind of experience connected to that character, and also researching, gaining the knowledge of this character. The best way to make your character authentic is to be able to see the world through that character's eyes.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what you mentioned the stereotypes that were used, especially back in, the 70s, 80s, and shows like Good Times. Um, how can writers avoid, the hurtful and negative stereotypes and cliches when writing these characters?
That's that's tricky. That's tricky. Even me as a black author, I feel sometimes when, especially in my first draft, I felt guilty, kind of creating my black teenagers in a caricature, and them overusing the N word, them like yo yo yo. But what I also so what I think with the stereotypes, a lot of people act like stereotypes, but the thing is, you don't see people who are walking stereotypes. They might act in a certain way that are cliche or that are tropes, but the people that we see and meet on a daily basis, they're complex. They have layers. And so you can write your character with stereotypes, with the wild hair or the slang or the accent, but to go beyond, to make your character more than just a flat static character, a minor player, you create layers. You have this person uh, add more to this person's personality, give this person trauma, give this person layers to the character where they're not just stuck in this box, where people are not just looking at your character like, oh, that's just another thug, like, oh, that's just another pregnant woman or something like that. Like, give this person complexity, so that when the reader is experiencing this character, they can see like, oh, this person's been through a lot, like, oh, this person has a vast world behind them.
Yeah. Kels, one thing we've talked about a lot on here and on the podcast lately, especially with our Alphabet Mafia episode, was sensitivity readers. Being able to use them, somebody like me who is for the first, not necessarily, yeah, for the first time writing a BIPOC character. I've written Asian characters but never a BIPOC character. So being able to run that by somebody who is better suited to say, yeah, you did, you represented this person well, and didn't embrace the full stereotypes, because like you're saying, stereotypes a lot of times for all races and culture are built into truths for certain people or troops for certain groups of people. So being able to use those sparingly to make your character more authentic is okay, but it's a fine line to walk. I think, especially as an author who is not a BIPOC author. Being able to accurately represent is so important for everybody, all authors.
And just something I want to add with when you write about a character that you don't identify as or you don't represent yourself, another suggestion I would make would be run your story by someone who does represent that character. So, like for example, I wrote a short story a while ago that followed. It was centered around a young lady who was. I don't want to spoil it, but it's a stalker horror story where she's being stalked by this crazy killer. But anyway, I wrote, so my first draft of that character, I objectified the female character. I was describing her appearance in a way that I would look at her in the male gaze, and I didn't even realize like, oh, I'm objectifying my own character. I didn't even realize it until I ran my story by another female author who kind of checked me on what I did, and so with her kind of bringing her perspective about me writing about this female character in an objective way, I was able to rewrite the character so it wasn't objective, and also rewrite the character so that it didn't appear like this person's being described from the male gaze. So same thing when you're writing like a BIPOC character. You don't want to write the character from your own gaze, your own lens. You want to be able to write that character from the BIPOC lens, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate that. What are some other tips and insights for developing unique backgrounds and motivations for those BIPOC characters? What can people include in their stories to make it more authentic?
It's a blend, the melting pot. I love listening to people and hearing their stories, and so when I do create characters, I try to blend in as many elements as possible. Um, I created so in Broken Pencils, for example, there's a homeless character, and I didn't want to just make him a stereotypical homeless character, so I put in a background of him of being in Vietnam. I was researching, I was not researching, but playing Forrest Gump over and over again, and kind of just like learning as much as I can about Bubba. And so I incorporated Bubba's story into this homeless person story. I, I, my uncle used to do some very quirky things. He just very strange things. He would put meat in his pocket, or he would like, yeah, just very weird. So anyway, I would incorporate the little weird things that my uncle did. Also, like I remember I was teaching Frederick Douglass's narratives of the life of Frederick Douglass to my class, and my students were like really obsessed over his hair. And so I just took that element. I took Frederick Douglass's hair, and then I put it in a homeless person. And so, and I can keep going, but basically, I took all these different elements that I heard and experienced, and just threw it into just one character, and make this character multi-layered. And so, just when you want to create a very unique BIPOC character, give that person as many uniqueness, quirkiness, as many stuff as possible to make that person stand out from everyone else. That's also how you avoid the stereotypes as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So if you don't mind me asking this, because I know we didn't talk about this before, what are some harmful stereotypes that people should avoid? And by this, I mean certain tropes and things like one thing I've seen a lot of BIPOC authors or readers not like is using food to describe skin colors. So saying caramel or cocoa or something like that. So is that something that you find harmful as a BIPOC author or reader? And if not, or if so, what are some other harmful stereotypes that maybe you've come across in your reading that you're just like, don't ever do this because that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, the description of the skin color, I think that has uh, someone has to be careful about that, but not just careful, but it has to be written with intention. So, and it's funny you said about the description of the food because in my book Broken Pencils, the main character he talks about the stripper or the dancer he sees, and he describes her caramel skin, and but the way I purposely use that description because he's objectifying her. He's looking at her as something desirable. So just like the caramel, the sweetness. He's using, so I use that description intentionally. So if an author uses, if someone were to describe a certain person's skin color with that intention, then I guess it's yeah, it's okay. Things um for me, um it's the dialogue. It's when sometimes this works. Like when I read, when I was teaching Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God, the very heavy, thick Southern dialect, like, hey, y'all, what y'all going over here? And yeah, that worked with her. I've seen it also, other people try to use it, and it just doesn't work. So dialogue is something you have to be very careful of. I have to be very careful of myself. I model a lot of my dialogue, especially with my black teenagers, based on what I hear with my own students, the way they talk. Um, the way I write my black teenager in my book is a lot tamer, a lot more PG than the way my students actually talk. So yeah, I would just I guess my I would be very careful with dialogue. But then at the same time, it's like if you really want to make your character authentic, if this character does come from Alabama, for example, you do want to incorporate that Southern dialogue, but you don't want to make it so choppy where it's like offensive.
Yeah.
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 Cool. So one thing that I'm really particularly interested in is how can writers recognize and celebrate the Black community's culture, history, and identities in their storytelling? And this can be both for BIPOC authors and for authors who are not BIPOC.
Yeah. What I wanted to do, for example, so I think to celebrate the richness of anyone's culture is just go across the board and include as many elements from that culture as possible, just references. So, for example, with my book, Broken Pencils, what I wanted to do was talk about my community as much as possible. So I included references to streets, references to certain monuments and places like Lake Merritt, talk about going over the Bay Bridge. Um, I also incorporating. So those are just elements of my city. But in terms of just Black culture, I also incorporate references to art, Romeo Bearden. Also incorporate a lot of music references. Like when people read my book, they're going to find references from like Too Short to Prince to Rick James, just everything. And so I try to celebrate the music, the art. I get put in references to movies. Like there's plenty of references like Denzel Washington or Training Day. Um, so celebrating the richness of any kind of culture would be to acknowledging the different aspects of that culture, including the elements of art and music and movies and dance and all this stuff inside your story. That's how you celebrate it. And that's all. And then, sorry, one more thing. And then also, that's how we're able to carry on. I would, yeah, I guess carry on tradition, but also push our culture to the next generation. Um, with for example, with me, by me acknowledging Oakland, by me acknowledging the songs and movies and art and all the stuff that influenced me, and I put all that in my book. It once my book comes out and I got another young person read it, they're able to absorb all those influences as well. And so it's very, very important that we do celebrate our culture, celebrate all cultures, and we try to document it for the future, so that they can celebrate it as well.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So, last question for the day for both.
Last question.
Last
Oh,
question. Yeah, we had a list of questions, but you answered with your answers. You answered most of our questions. So, very efficient, and we appreciate that on the Cook the Books podcast. Um, so this is for Kelsey and Jay. Um, why is it important for writers to champion diversity and inclusivity in their work and contribute to a more representative and empathetic literary landscape?
okay. Kelsey.
Wow. Well, I think the major thing is that we don't live in a world where only one experience is ever felt. And unfortunately, because specifically white people have dominated the publishing industry pretty much since the printing press was invented, we only see stories that represent those type of experiences. And yes, there's a vast array of experiences even within the white community. You know, some people are born into richness, some people are born into poverty, regardless of the fact that they're white. But when we don't know anything beyond one experience, we can't understand when things happen that don't make sense to us. It's basically because there has not been a good history of BIPOC stories being represented. We have white privilege, but we don't recognize that we have it until it really slaps us in the face. And you need it to slap you in the face. And the earlier that it slaps you in the face, the better you can start to, the earlier you can start to educate yourself, decolonize your kind of thought process and experience. And if not understand, at least empathize and sympathize with experiences that are not yours. And I think that's the most important thing for especially building just a community of human beings is empathy, sympathy, understanding, caring, kindness, and compassion. So that for me is why it's so important to promote diversity in characters, in books, in stories.
Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. Well, why is it important to champion diversity? I think with diversity and inclusivity, it's about celebrating different voices and including different voices that haven't been heard, voices that haven't been acknowledged. Also, by championing diversity and inclusivity for by us doing this, even just us attempting to do this, we're going to help a future generation also have a voice. So I also like to think bigger picture. Like I hope our efforts are actually make a bigger difference toward the future, where the silent voices or the voices that are still about to come up, they will be inspired to speak up and hopefully be heard, and have more opportunities. So by us kind of, even with the hot topic, by us speaking out against that and bringing out awareness to all that, like hopefully we're championing more opportunities for other voices. So it's a fight, but it's a good fight.
Exactly.
I think, and one thing I'm very passionate about, and Kelsey knows this, not very many people know this, but I grew up in the South and had a lot of mindsets that now I'm so ashamed of. There are certain stereotypes that I was raised to believe, and certain things, ways, and just it's sad to say, but a lot of times a small kid doesn't know better than to believe what the people around them are saying. And I'm so grateful now that I was able to break those mindsets. So basically what I'm saying is anybody out there who has those mindsets, it's possible to break it. You've got to embrace culture, embrace these differences, and sit down and have conversations. And that was the biggest thing for me, was going to these people that I had negative connotations about and actually having a conversation and building my own opinion on each person individually instead of for the reasons that I just simply judged them to begin with. And now I'm here to help everybody. I love everybody now. And it's been such a beautiful change for me. And part of that was from the different experiences that I saw with people and exploring cultures. And whenever I was in college, I did a lot of research into different religions across the world and across the United States, and really tried to understand different kinds of people. So I think understanding and living these cultures is appreciating and respecting them in a whole new way.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of episode. This is the last episode of the season, isn't it, Kelsey?
Oh no.
I think it is.
Oh my goodness.
I think it is.
It
and
is,
we went out with a wonderful bang.
Hey.
Yes. Yes, our next episode is a Patreon special, and it's a round table, and it's only going to be on our Patreon. So this is the last episode of season 2 of the Cooked Books podcast. We are joined by Jay Rice, Kelsey Ann Lovelady, and myself, and we are. Any last words for our audience, Kelsey?
I'm trying to find them.
Jay, while Kelsey's thinking, why don't you leave us with any last words, and also tell our listeners where they can find you, and anything you want them to know about connecting with you or following you on social medias or webs.
Yeah. Sorry, I was laughing. I was seeing Kelsey struggle in real time.
Yeah.
So I do have 2 self-published poetry books out. Feel free to check them on Amazon. They're called I Was, I Am, I Will Be. I have 2 books in the series. They're poetry books. They're also an extension of Jonah Tarver's character from Broken Pencils. Also, keep a lookout for Broken Pencils, which will be coming out in June. It's going to blow up the world in a great, beautiful way. I'm looking forward to that. Feel free to check me out at I'm Jay Rice. I'm Jay Rice on Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. This has been amazing. This is like my second podcast ever. I was nervous at first, but you 2 were great. Thanks. I appreciate it.
And I will say you definitely need to check out his Instagram, because he posts some of his, would you call it slam poetry?
Yeah, I perform. I do.
Yes.
I have my own showcase, a poetry showcase here in Oakland for Saturdays. So yeah, feel free to check me out on it's I'm Jay Rice. I'm Jay Rice. Yeah, you can check out all my work.
I absolutely love watching those. So definitely check them out. And until next time, or until next season, we will see you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, people.
Thanks for tuning in to the Cook the Books podcast by Tea with Coffee Media. Interested in supporting this podcast and our independent press?
Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to stay updated with all the latest Tea with Coffee Media updates.
You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter by visiting teawithcoffee.media.
Finally, visit our Patreon to get early access to the Cook the Books podcast, free access to all Tea with Coffee Media ebooks, and the chance to win cool prizes.
You've been listening to the Cook the Bug podcast with me, Tyler Witkowski.
And me, Kelsey Ann Lovelady. Until next
time.